Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his massive bioship, looking out at the stars through the living walls that pulsed with a green light. His forearms moved across the control panels that were made from modified alien bones. The Zephyrian hegemony had been conquering worlds for 3,000 years, and Kethvar had personally led the destruction of 40 different species. The fleet behind him was the largest ever assembled in hegemony history. 10,000 ships floated in the dark space, each one a living creature that had been grown in the biofactories of the homeworld. Some ships looked like giant squids with metal tentacles. Others resembled massive beetles with weapons growing from their backs. All of them were hungry. All of them were ready to feed. Their target was a small yellow star called Sol by its inhabitants. The intelligence reports were simple and encouraging. The third planet from the star housed a young species that had only recently learned to leave their world. They used primitive chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. Their largest ships were tiny compared to even the smallest hegemony vessel. The conquest would be over in hours, maybe less. Kethvar's second-in-command, a younger Zephyrian named Velnok, approached with the final attack plan. His scaled skin showed the excitement patterns that all Zephyrians displayed before a good hunt. "Admiral, our scouts report the humans have detected nothing. Their defense satellites are pointed in the wrong directions. Their military ships are spread across their system doing routine patrols." The Admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Good. The humans will make fine slaves for the outer colonies. Their planet looks rich in resources. We will strip it clean and move on to the next system." He had said these same words dozens of times before. It never got old. The bioships began their approach to the hyperspace jump point. Each ship's living hull started to glow as the organic hyperspace organs prepared for the journey. The hegemony had perfected this technology over millennia. Their ships could appear anywhere in a system without warning, giving their enemies no time to prepare. Kethvar reviewed the intelligence files one more time. The humans had fought small wars among themselves, but nothing like what they were about to face. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and primitive energy beams. Their ships had no organic components, just dead metal and circuits. They showed none of the biological adaptability that made the hegemony so successful. The hyperspace jump began. 10,000 living ships disappeared from normal space and entered the twisted realm between dimensions. Inside the bioships, the crews prepared their weapons and feeding systems. After the battle, they would consume the destroyed human vessels to grow stronger. It was the way of the hegemony. The jump took 6 hours. When they emerged at the edge of the Sol system, Kethvar expected to see scattered human ships fleeing in panic. Instead, his sensors showed something impossible. The electromagnetic signature from the inner system was massive and organized. Multiple fleets were moving in coordinated patterns. The humans were not running away. They were mobilizing for war. "Admiral," Velnok said, his excitement patterns fading to confusion. "The humans. They knew we were coming. Their deep space sensors must be more advanced than we thought." Kethvar studied the sensor readings more carefully. The human fleet movements were too precise, too coordinated. These were not the actions of a primitive species caught by surprise. "How many human ships are there?" "Unknown, sir. Our sensors are picking up jamming signals we have never encountered before. But the electromagnetic patterns suggest many ships, maybe more than we expected." This was unusual, but not concerning. The hegemony had faced surprising technologies before. No species had ever matched their biological weapons and adaptive tactics. "Signal the fleet. Begin attack formation. We will crush whatever resistance they offer." The 10,000 bioships spread out in the classic hegemony hunting pattern. The largest ships moved to the center while smaller, faster vessels took positions on the flanks. It was a formation that had conquered 100 worlds and destroyed countless enemy fleets. As they moved deeper into the Sol system, the human electromagnetic signals grew stronger and more organized. Kethvar began to feel something he had not experienced in decades of conquest: uncertainty. The humans were not behaving like any species the hegemony had encountered before. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, "we are detecting multiple human fleets. They appear to be positioning themselves throughout the system. Some are hiding in asteroid fields. Others are using the gas giants' moons as cover." This was tactical thinking, advanced tactical thinking. Kethvar's certainty began to crack. "Are they trying to surround us?" "It appears so, sir. They seem to know exactly where we are and where we are going." The admiral looked at the tactical display showing the disposition of both fleets. The humans had somehow detected the hegemony approach weeks in advance and had time to prepare. This meant their sensor technology was far more advanced than intelligence had indicated. It also meant they had chosen to fight rather than flee or surrender. "Sir," Velnok said quietly, "perhaps we should contact the homeworld. Request additional forces." "No," Cathvar replied firmly. 10,000 ships are enough to conquer any primitive species. We proceed with the attack." But deep in his mind, doubts were growing. The humans were showing tactical awareness that suggested significant military experience. Their fleet movements indicated they had fought space battles before and learned from them. Most disturbing of all, they seemed confident. Species about to be conquered did not move their fleets with such precision and purpose. The bioships continued their approach toward the inner system. Behind them, the hyperspace jump point began to close. There would be no retreat until the battle was finished and the ships could reopen the dimensional rift. The hegemony was committed to this fight. As the hours passed, more human fleets revealed themselves. They were positioned at strategic points throughout the system, creating overlapping fields of fire and multiple fallback positions. Whoever was commanding the human forces understood space warfare at a level that impressed even Cathvar. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "we are receiving a transmission from the humans. Audio only. Put it through." A human voice spoke in heavily accented Galactic Standard. "Unknown alien fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force. You have entered our system without permission and in battle formation. We assume hostile intent. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and leave our space. If you continue your approach, we will consider it an act of war and respond accordingly." Kethavar almost laughed. The humans were threatening him. 10,000 bioships, and they were making threats. Open a return channel. This is Admiral Cathvar of the Zephyrian Hegemony. We claim this system by right of conquest. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Continue to resist and we will consume your ships and enslave your population. The human response came immediately. "Negative. This system belongs to humanity. Leave now or we will make you leave." The channel closed. Kethavar stared at the tactical display, trying to understand what he was seeing. The humans were outnumbered more than 200 to 1. They were technologically inferior. By every measure that mattered, they should be begging for mercy or fleeing in panic. Instead, they were positioning their fleets for an attack. "Admiral," Velnok said, "what are your orders?" Kethavar looked at his fleet, then at the human dispositions. Everything he knew about warfare said this would be an easy victory. But something felt wrong. The humans were too confident, too prepared, too willing to fight. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "Begin the attack and prepare for surprises." Captain Sarah Chen floated in zero gravity on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the tactical display that showed 10,000 red dots approaching Earth. She had been waiting in the asteroid belt for 3 days, with her battle fleet of 47 ships. Every vessel was running silent, their engines cold and their weapons powered down to minimum levels. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had trained for this moment for years, but nobody had expected the enemy fleet to be so large. Intelligence reports from the deep space monitoring stations showed the aliens had more ships than anyone had imagined possible. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called from the sensor station, "the aliens are maintaining their approach vector. They will reach Mars orbit in 6 hours. Chen nodded. The Deep Space Monitoring Network had detected the hyperspace disturbance 3 weeks ago. It was the same signature they had learned to recognize during the Proxima War against the Centauri raiders 5 years earlier. Hostile aliens preparing to invade human space. But this time was different. The Proxima War had been fought against a small pirate fleet with maybe 50 ships. This alien force was massive beyond anything humanity had ever faced. The politicians on Earth had wanted to negotiate or surrender. The military had other ideas. "Status of the other fleets?" Chen asked. "Ghost Fleet is holding position behind Europa. Hammer Fleet is spread throughout the outer asteroid belt. Anvil Fleet is stationed near Jupiter's L4 point. All ships report ready for combat." Chen smiled grimly. The politicians might want to surrender, but humanity's military had spent 5 years preparing for exactly this scenario. The lessons learned from the Proxima War had been simple. Never let hostile aliens reach Earth's orbital space Always hit them when they least expect it, and never fight fair when survival is at stake. Commander Jackson, her second in command, moved carefully through the zero gravity to reach her position. Sarah, I have to ask one more time. Are you sure about this? 10,000 ships against our 150. The odds are not good. The odds were not good at Proxima either, David. We won that fight by thinking differently than our enemies expected. These aliens are making the same mistake the Raiders made. They think we are primitive and weak. Chen looked at the tactical display again. The alien ships moved in perfect formations, following predictable patterns. They showed no concern for human capabilities, and no awareness that humanity might have learned advanced tactics from previous conflicts. They have bigger guns and more ships, but they are fighting the last war, not this one. The Proxima War had taught humanity many lessons. The most important was that alien species often underestimated human adaptability and creativity. The Centauri raiders had been technologically superior, but had expected humanity to fight using standard galactic military doctrine. Instead, human forces had used guerrilla tactics, suicide runs, and weapons that no civilized species would consider acceptable in warfare. Captain, the communications officer called out. We are receiving transmissions from the alien fleet. They are demanding our surrender and threatening to enslave the human population. Any response from Earth Command? Admiral Rodriguez has authorized Protocol 7, full combat engagement with no restrictions on weapons or tactics. Chen felt a cold satisfaction flow through her. Protocol 7 meant humanity's military was free to use every weapon and tactic they had developed since the Proxima War. The politicians had finally realized that some fights could not be won through diplomacy. Signal all fleets. Implement the Welcome Protocol. Let our guests know what humanity thinks about uninvited conquerors. The Welcome Protocol had been developed specifically for this situation. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in open battle where human forces would be overwhelmed by superior numbers, the plan called for coordinated attacks from multiple directions using advanced tactics and weapons the aliens would not expect. All ships report ready, Captain. Ghost Fleet will attack first to draw their attention. Then Hammer Fleet will hit their flanks while Anvil Fleet cuts off their retreat. Our fleet will provide the final blow to their command ships. Chen had studied every battle humanity had fought in space. The key to victory was not having better technology or more ships. The key was understanding your enemy's weaknesses and exploiting them ruthlessly. The alien formations looked impressive, but showed several critical flaws that human tactics could exploit. Bring the fleet to combat readiness. Full power to all systems. Load all weapons and prepare for attack speed. Throughout the asteroid belt, 47 human warships came alive. Fusion reactors that had been running on minimal power surged to full output. Weapon systems that had been cold for days began charging to maximum capacity. Engine drives prepared for full acceleration runs that would push the ships and their crews to the limits of endurance. The Indomitable itself was a testament to human military engineering. Built after the Proxima War, it incorporated every lesson learned from fighting hostile aliens. Its armor was designed to absorb energy weapons, while its shields could deflect kinetic projectiles. Most importantly, its weapons were specifically chosen to be effective against unknown alien technologies. Captain, Torres called from sensors. The alien fleet has begun broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. They want us to power down our ships and prepare to be boarded. Chen almost laughed. Any species that broadcasts surrender demands before the battle begins does not understand humans very well. Open fleet communications. The communication system connected her to every human warship in the solar system. 150 captains and 50,000 crew members waited for her words. This is Admiral Chen, aboard the Indomitable. 5 years ago, humanity faced our first alien invasion. We won that fight because we refused to accept defeat and fought with everything we had. Today we face a much larger enemy, but we are no longer the same species that barely survived the Proxima War. We have learned. We have adapted. We have prepared. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the massive alien fleet approaching Earth's orbital space. These aliens think we are primitive and weak. They expect us to surrender or flee. They are wrong. Today we show the galaxy what humanity has become. Today we send a message that will be heard across every star system. Earth and humanity are not prey. We are predators, and we do not surrender. The communication channel filled with voices as 150 ship captains acknowledged their orders. Throughout the solar system, human fleets began moving into attack positions. All ships, this is actual. Welcome protocol is authorized. Show our guests what human hospitality looks like. The battle for Earth was about to begin, but unlike the aliens expected, humanity would not be fighting for survival. They would be fighting to send a message to the galaxy that would change everything. Chen watched the alien fleet continue its approach, still confident in their overwhelming numerical superiority. In a few hours, they would learn why humanity had become the most feared military force in this part of the galaxy. The Proxima War had been humanity's graduation exam. This battle would be their declaration of independence from any species that thought Earth was easy prey. All stations report ready for combat, Captain. Good. Begin the attack. Let us welcome our new friends properly. The first human attack came from a direction Admiral Kethvar had not expected. Ghost Fleet emerged from behind Europa's ice, 42 ships accelerating at maximum speed toward the center of the hegemony formation. Their approach was silent and deadly, using the gas giant's magnetic field to mask their energy signatures until the last possible moment. Kethvar watched the human ships on his tactical display with growing confusion. The vessels were small compared to his bioships, but they moved with precision that suggested advanced computer coordination. More disturbing was their acceleration rate. The human ships were pulling forces that should have killed their organic crews. All ships engage the human attackers, he ordered. Show them the power of the hegemony. The bioships responded immediately. Energy weapons that had destroyed 100 worlds fired at the approaching human vessels. The beams struck the human ships and bounced off their armor like light-hitting mirrors. The humans had developed some kind of energy deflection system that the hegemony had never encountered. But the real surprise came when the human ships opened fire. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, they launched solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds struck hegemony bioships and punched straight through their living armor like bullets through soft flesh. Impossible, Velnok whispered as 3 bioships exploded around them. How are they moving those projectiles so fast? Kethvar studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. The human kinetic weapons were traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The energy required to accelerate solid matter to those velocities was enormous. Either the humans had mastered energy generation far beyond what intelligence suggested, or they had developed entirely new physics principles. The Ghost Fleet attack was only the beginning. As the hegemony ships focused their attention on the frontal assault, Hammer Fleet emerged from the outer asteroid belt and began attacking the alien formation from 3 directions simultaneously. The humans were using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Admiral, the tactical officer called out in panic. The humans are using our own destroyed ships as weapons. They are accelerating debris at our formations. Kethvar looked at the display in horror. The humans had somehow calculated the orbital mechanics to use chunks of destroyed bioships as kinetic projectiles. Dead hegemony vessels were being turned into bullets that struck living ships with devastating effect. It was brilliant, ruthless, and completely unexpected. More human fleets appeared throughout the system. Anvil Fleet had been hiding near Jupiter's moons and now attacked the hegemony's rear formations. Each human ship seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. They targeted the bioship's weak points with surgical precision that suggested detailed knowledge of hegemony ship design. How do they know where to hit us? Velnok asked as another wave of kinetic projectiles destroyed 5 more bioships. Our ship designs are classified military secrets. The answer came when Kethvar realized the humans were not just fighting, they were learning. Every attack revealed new information about hegemony weaknesses, and the humans adapted their tactics in real time. Their weapons fire became more accurate with each passing minute. But the most terrifying aspect of the human attack was their coordination. Ships separated by millions of kilometers moved together like parts of a single organism. They communicated through some kind of instantaneous system that allowed perfect coordination across impossible distances. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are intercepting human military transmissions. They appear to be using quantum entanglement for communication. No transmission delay regardless of distance. Quantum entanglement communication was theoretical technology that even the hegemony had not mastered. The humans were using physics principles that should have taken centuries to develop. Either their technological advancement had been grossly underestimated, or they had received help from some other advanced species. The battle entered its third hour with devastating results for the hegemony. 3,000 bioships had been destroyed or disabled. The human fleets had lost only 12 vessels, and their remaining ships seemed to fight harder rather than weaker as the battle continued. Kethvar watched human ships perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. They used gravity wells from planets and moons to change direction without using their engines. They fired weapons while accelerating at forces that should have made accurate targeting impossible. Most disturbing of all, they showed no fear of death, Admiral, Velnok said quietly. We need to retreat. The humans are not what we expected. No, Kethvar replied firmly. The hegemony does not retreat. We have 7,000 ships remaining. We can still overwhelm them with numbers. But even as he spoke, Admiral Chen's fleet emerged from the asteroid belt where they had been waiting. The Indomitable led 47 ships in a direct assault on Kethvar's command vessel. The human flagship fired a weapon that the hegemony sensors could not identify. The projectile struck Kethvar's bioship and penetrated deep into its living core. Instead of exploding, it released some kind of energy that began converting the ship's organic systems into inert matter. The bioship started dying from the inside out. What is that weapon? Kethvar demanded as his ship's living walls began turning gray and lifeless. Unknown technology, sir. It appears to be some kind of molecular disruptor specifically designed to kill organic systems. The humans had developed weapons specifically designed to kill bioships. This meant they had studied hegemony technology and created countermeasures. The humans had been preparing for this battle much longer than anyone had realized. As more human fleets joined the battle, the tactical situation became clear. The humans were not trying to destroy the entire hegemony fleet. They were systematically targeting command ships and breaking the biofleet's coordination. Without central command, the individual bioships became vulnerable to human tactics. The sixth hour of battle brought the final human assault. Admiral Chen's voice broadcast on all frequencies. Alien fleet, this is your final warning. Surrender now or we will destroy every ship you have. Kethvar looked at his tactical display. Of his original 10,000 ships, fewer than 4,000 remained operational. The humans had lost 31 vessels total. The mathematics of warfare had been completely reversed. Sir, the sensor officer called out desperately, the humans are preparing some kind of massive weapon. Energy readings are off our scales. On the tactical display, the human fleets were positioning themselves in a complex formation around the remaining hegemony forces. Each human ship began charging its weapons to maximum power, while maintaining perfect coordination. Kethvar finally understood what he was facing. The humans were not a primitive species that had recently developed space travel. They were an advanced military civilization that had been hiding their true capabilities. The small chemical rockets and basic energy weapons had been deception designed to make enemies underestimate human strength. All ships, he broadcast on the hegemony command frequency. Retreat to the jump point. Emergency hyperspace departure, but it was too late. The human fleets opened fire simultaneously, creating a coordinated barrage that overwhelmed the remaining bioships' defenses. In minutes, the hegemony fleet was reduced to scattered debris and a few dozen severely damaged vessels. As his flagship died around him, Admiral Kethvar realized the terrible truth. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were apex predators that had been waiting for something worthy of their full attention. The hegemony had given them exactly what they wanted. The battle for Sol System was over. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kethvar's flagship was dying around him. The organic walls had turned gray and brittle where the human weapon had struck. Life support systems that had functioned for centuries were shutting down one by one. Through the cracked viewports, he could see the debris field that had once been the pride of the hegemony fleet. Sir? His communications officer gasped, her breathing apparatus failing as the ship's atmosphere leaked into space. The quantum transmitter is still functional. We can send a message to the homeworld. Kethvar looked at the tactical display one final time. Of the 10,000 ships he had brought to conquer humanity, fewer than 50 remained. Most of those were badly damaged and trying to limp toward the hyperspace jump point. The humans were letting them go, which somehow made their defeat even more humiliating. "Connect me to the galaxy-wide emergency network," he ordered. "All hegemony worlds, all allied species, all neutral systems. This message must reach everyone." The quantum transmitter established connections across thousands of light-years instantly. Within moments, HFY was broadcasting to every major civilization in the galaxy. Military commanders, political leaders, and intelligence services would all receive his final transmission. "This is Admiral HFY of the Zephyrian hegemony, broadcasting from the Sol system. I am sending tactical data and battle recordings of our engagement with the human species. What you are about to see will change everything you think you know about warfare." He uploaded the complete battle records, every sensor reading, every tactical analysis, every moment of the 6-hour engagement that had destroyed the most powerful fleet in hegemony history. The data showed human capabilities that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about this young species. The humans are not what our intelligence reports suggested. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are apex predators who have been hiding their true nature from the galaxy. Their technology is advanced beyond our understanding. Their tactics are ruthless and effective. Their coordination is perfect. HFY paused as another section of his ship died. The humans had weapons specifically designed to kill bioships, which meant they had been studying hegemony technology for years. This was not a species that had recently achieved spaceflight. This was a civilization that had been preparing for galactic warfare. I brought 10,000 ships to conquer a single star system. The humans destroyed 90% of my fleet with fewer than 200 vessels. They did not do this through luck or accident. They did this through superior tactics, advanced technology, and a level of military competence that surpasses anything in the known galaxy. The transmission was being recorded by intelligence services throughout the spiral arm. Within hours, every major power would have copies of the battle data. The implications would send shockwaves through galactic politics. The humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not follow civilized rules of warfare. They use kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds. They convert debris into projectiles. They coordinate attacks across impossible distances with quantum communication. They adapt their tactics in real time based on enemy weaknesses. HFY could hear human ships moving past his dying flagship. They were not finishing off the survivors. Instead, they were methodically destroying any hegemony technology that might be recovered and studied. The humans understood the importance of keeping their tactical advantages secret. Most important of all, the humans show no fear of death. They do not retreat when faced with superior numbers. They do not negotiate when threatened with annihilation. They attack with a level of aggression and determination that I have never seen in 40 years of conquest. The communication officer's station exploded in a shower of sparks. The quantum transmitter was failing as the ship's power systems died. HFY had only minutes left to complete his warning to the galaxy. To all species receiving this transmission, I offer the following advice. Avoid the Sol system. Do not attempt to conquer or enslave humanity. Do not underestimate their capabilities. The humans are not prey. They are hunters, and they are very good at what they do. Across the galaxy, military leaders were already analyzing the battle data. The Altarian Republic's Defense Council watched in stunned silence as human ships performed maneuvers that violated their understanding of physics. The Vagan Confederacy's intelligence service began emergency sessions to discuss the implications for their own security. The ancient Andromedans, who had been the galaxy's dominant power for 10,000 years, called an immediate council meeting. The battle recordings showed technology that even they had not developed. If humanity possessed quantum communication and relativistic kinetic weapons, what else were they hiding? The humans call this engagement the Welcome Protocol. HFY continued as his ship's life support finally failed completely. This was not their maximum effort. This was their standard response to invasion. I can only imagine what their full military capabilities might include. Emergency meetings were being called on 100 worlds. Trade routes would be rerouted to avoid human space. Diplomatic missions would be organized to establish contact with this suddenly dangerous species. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single day. The hegemony has conquered over 300 species in 3 millennia of expansion. We have never faced defeat like this. The humans did not just win a battle. They demonstrated complete superiority in every aspect of space warfare. Technology, tactics, strategy, coordination, and determination. Kethvar's breathing apparatus finally failed. As his vision began to fade, he sent the final portion of his message to the galaxy. To any species considering conflict with humanity, I offer this warning. They are not like us. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They are something new and dangerous, and they have been preparing for galactic warfare much longer than anyone realized. The quantum transmission ended as Kethvar's flagship finally died completely, but his message had already reached every corner of the galaxy. Within days, the tactical data would be analyzed by military experts on thousands of worlds. The conclusions would be identical. Humanity had just announced itself as the new apex predator in galactic affairs. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the surviving hegemony ships limp toward their hyperspace jump point. She had deliberately allowed them to escape so they could carry word of humanity's capabilities back to their home worlds. The battle had served its purpose perfectly. The galaxy now knew that Earth was not to be trifled with. More importantly, they knew that humanity possessed military capabilities that could threaten any species that chose aggression. The age of alien invasions was over. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Within weeks, the first diplomatic missions would arrive at Sol System. Within months, trade agreements and defense pacts would be signed. Within years, human fleets would be patrolling trade routes throughout the spiral arm as the galaxy's newest and most respected military. Power Admiral Kethvar's final message had done more than warn the galaxy about humanity's military strength. It had established Earth as a major power that could no longer be ignored or underestimated. The humans had achieved in one day what most species took centuries to accomplish: recognition as a force to be respected and feared. The galaxy would never be the same again. One standard galactic year after the Battle of Sol, everything had changed. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her rebuilt flagship, the UES Indomitable II, watching a steady stream of alien vessels approaching Earth's orbital stations. What had once been humanity's defensive perimeter was now the busiest diplomatic and trade hub in the local spiral arm. The first changes had come within weeks of Admiral Kethvar's final transmission. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were suddenly rerouted to avoid human space, not out of hostility, but out of a new respect that bordered on fear. Merchant vessels that had never acknowledged Earth's existence began requesting permission to transit through human-controlled systems. Chen remembered the arrival of the first diplomatic mission. The Galactic Council, which had governed interstellar relations for 5,000 years without ever acknowledging humanity's existence, sent their most senior ambassadors to Sol System. They had come aboard the Indomitable expecting to meet savage warmongers who had somehow stumbled onto advanced weapons. Instead, they found a species that fought with ruthless efficiency when threatened, but spoke eloquently about peace, trade, and mutual cooperation. Admiral Chen had received the alien diplomats in the flagship's main conference room, surrounded by displays showing Earth's cultural achievements alongside its military capabilities. "We did not seek this conflict," she had told the council representatives. "We simply defended our home when invaded by a hostile force. If other species choose peaceful contact, they will find humanity to be valuable allies and trading partners." The council ambassadors had been visibly confused. Their experience with militarily dominant species suggested that humans should be demanding tribute, territory, or submission from weaker civilizations. Instead, humanity was offering protection for trade routes and defensive alliances against common threats. Within months, the requests began arriving. The hegemony's former territory, covering dozens of star systems that had been conquered and enslaved for centuries, sent desperate pleas for human protection. The bioships might be gone, but other predator species were already moving to claim the abandoned worlds. Chen had presented the requests to Earth's government and received authorization to extend humanity's protective umbrella. Human fleets began patrolling former hegemony space not as conquerors but as guardians. The freed worlds were allowed to govern themselves while contributing to their own defense through technology sharing and resource agreements. The transformation was remarkable. Systems that had lived in fear for generations were suddenly free to develop their own cultures and economies. Trade flourished under human protection. Art and science began to bloom on worlds that had known only oppression. Other galactic powers took notice. The Altarian Republic, facing pressure from expanding militant species near their borders, approached humanity about a mutual defense agreement. The Vegan Confederacy requested human assistance in protecting their merchant fleets from piracy. Even the ancient Andromedans sought meetings to discuss technology sharing. "Admiral," Commander Jackson called from his station on the Indomitable's bridge. "We have a priority transmission from the Kepler station. The quarterly diplomatic review is ready for your approval." Chen reviewed the report on her personal display. In just 1 year, humanity had established formal relations with 47 different species. Trade agreements covered everything from rare metals to cultural exchanges. Defense pacts protected over 100 worlds from aggressive neighbors. Most importantly, human military doctrine was being studied and adapted throughout the galaxy. The tactics that had destroyed the hegemony fleet were now being taught at military academies on dozens of worlds. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had revolutionized space warfare. "Status of the new ship construction program?" Chen asked. "Luna shipyards report completion of 12 new battleships this month. Mars orbital facilities have finished 8 heavy cruisers. The asteroid belt mining stations are providing more raw materials than our shipyards can currently process." Earth's economy had been transformed by galactic contact. Technologies traded by alien civilizations had accelerated human development by centuries. In return, human military expertise and protection had become the galaxy's most valued commodities. But the most significant change was in humanity's role in galactic politics. The species that had been ignored for decades was suddenly the most sought-after ally in the spiral arm. Human diplomatic missions were welcomed on worlds that had never permitted alien contact. Human military advisors were training defense forces throughout the galaxy. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "we have an incoming transmission from the Andromedan High Council. They are requesting a meeting about joint military exercises." Chen smiled. The Andromedans were the galaxy's oldest and most advanced civilization. For them to request cooperation with humanity was recognition of how much had changed in just 1 year. "Schedule the meeting for next week, and prepare a full briefing on our current fleet capabilities. If the Andromedans want joint exercises, we should show them what humanity has learned since Sol." The bridge crew worked efficiently to process the constant stream of communications from across the galaxy. Diplomatic requests, trade negotiations, defense consultations, and technological exchanges kept Earth's government busier than any human institution had ever been. Through the main viewport, Chen could see construction crews working on the new orbital facilities. What had started as Earth's defensive installations were being expanded into massive diplomatic and trade centers. Ships from dozens of species docked regularly to conduct business with humanity's growing interstellar presence. "Admiral," Jackson said quietly as he approached her position, "sometimes I wonder what would have happened if the hegemony had never attacked us." Chen considered the question while watching an elegant Altarian diplomatic vessel dock at the main station. "We probably would have remained isolated for another century or two. Eventually, we would have encountered other species and established normal diplomatic relations. We would have been just another minor civilization trying to find our place in the galaxy. Instead, we announced ourselves as a major power in the most dramatic way possible. We showed the galaxy that humanity could defend itself and others. We proved that our military capabilities were advanced enough to threaten any aggressive species." Chen paused to review a report about new human colonies being established in former hegemony territory. Millions of humans were emigrating to new worlds, spreading humanity's influence throughout the spiral arm. The hegemony gave us something we could never have achieved through peaceful development. Instant recognition as a species to be respected and feared. They thought they were conquering a primitive world. Instead, they gave us the galaxy. The irony was not lost on any human who understood the situation. The hegemony's attempt to enslave humanity had instead liberated dozens of species and established humans as the galaxy's newest superpower. Admiral Kethvar's final warning had become humanity's greatest advertisement. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, "we have multiple contacts approaching from the outer system. Appears to be a trade convoy requesting escort through the inner planets." "Standard protection protocol," Chen ordered. "Assign a cruiser squadron to shepherd them through the system." This had become routine. Merchant vessels from throughout the galaxy now sought human protection for their most valuable cargoes. Human military escorts were considered the ultimate guarantee of safe passage. As Chen watched the convoy approach Earth's orbital space, she reflected on how much humanity had achieved in just 1 year. They had gone from an isolated species barely known to their neighbors to the most influential military and diplomatic power in their region of the galaxy. The transformation had come at a price. Humanity could never again claim to be peaceful explorers interested only in knowledge and friendship. They were now recognized as apex predators whose friendship was valuable and whose enmity was terrifying. But perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy had needed. For too long, aggressive species like the hegemony had terrorized peaceful civilizations without facing serious consequences. Humanity's emergence as a military superpower had created a new balance that protected the weak and deterred the ambitious. Admiral Chen looked out at the bustling orbital stations, the diplomatic vessels, and the constant flow of trade that now centered on Earth. Humanity had not sought galactic prominence, but they had earned it through their response to the hegemony invasion. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps that was exactly what it needed.